What's up, guys? Today we're going over the new raid exotic, the Euphony, which is a top slot strand linear fusion rifle, joining one of now three, I believe, special linears in the game. And this thing is absolutely insane. At first glance, it might not seem like a lot, but trust me, this thing is incredible. So what is this weapon even? Well, it's going to be a 3-round burst linear fusion, and the main perk, Unwound, doing the same damage with this weapon spawns Threadlings at your target's location, and the secondary perk, Spindle, Threadling damage increases this weapon's damage. So as mentioned, this will be a 3-round burst special strand linear fusion rifle. And look at damage on Carl. It's a hit for just right off the bat. It feels like a lot. Numbers have changed in the final shape. But as we do damage with this weapon, every other burst will spawn in 3 Threadlings, hitting for a lot of damage. The total of the burst was 61. Then every second burst will hit for 98.6 thousand with the 3 extra Threadlings. And as mentioned, every other burst will spawn in the Threadlings. And the secondary perk Spindle on this weapon, as Threadlings hit a target, you will see a buff right above the super bar called Spindle. Every time a Threadling hits the target, it will reset to 10 seconds and add 1 stack, and this will just count up and higher, and my entire team went to bed, so I have to do all the testing by myself. It'd be a lot easier with other people, but as I saw, by testing a bunch of different combinations, the highest you'll be able to get to is gonna be 25. So I was doing things with Warlock by pushing 5 Threadlings with my Threadling grenade and using my Rift, getting kills, in rapid hits to spawn more and more Threadlings, and I tested it multiple times, and as you'll see, 25 is definitely the highest you can get. And when I first started making this video, I thought this would be a lot like Outbreak, where it would stack with teammates, so anyone's Threadlings would give you stacks of the buff. As you'll see in these clips, that is just not the case. So building up to times 25 by yourself would take quite a while to get ready for a boss fight, but during a boss fight itself, every other burst, you would create 3 Threadlings. As long as they hit the target, it would take you roughly 16 bursts to get to the max stack, which over a boss fight, you would eventually get there. But obviously, as it goes along, your damage and stacks would just ramp up slowly over time. And towards the end of your reserves is when you'd have the full buff. And yeah, so this weapon is interesting, where it's going to scale a lot over time as you use it. As you'll see, with a full stack of times 25 on Carl, the damage is going to be a lot higher now, hitting for 30,507 per shot of the burst, which means the total damage of the burst is now going to be 129,000, which is a 50% buff, so 2% per stack of Spindle. And once again, this will only be once you're later into the reserves of the weapon, and it'll scale roughly 6% every second burst. And yes, you can use Thread of Evolution to increase the damage of the Threadlings spawned from this weapon, taking them from that 12,000 number to now over 16.6 thousand, which will greatly increase the damage further of this weapon. And all that combined, the total damage of a burst without the Threadlings is 91,000, and with the 3 Threadlings, 141,000, which is a lot per burst of a special linear fusion rifle. You could also use Swarmers and Warlock to then unravel a target, which will add a little bit more damage, not enough to really put into the calculation, but free damage. So now if we look at the DPS of this weapon, this will be the one thing that will slow this weapon down a little bit, is that burst linears take forever to shoot and are generally not great for DPS, but the raw damage of these bursts is so high that I think this number is going to really surprise you when I compare it to other things in the game. So the 2 mags takes forever at 17.7 seconds, which means the DPS of the base with no stacks at all is 62.9, and over 2 mags 58,000. But with the max buff, the DPS will go up to 85.2 and 78.7, which numbers have changed in final shape. So we will be comparing it to a few things here in a second, but I also did an overall DPS number where taking account the scaling of the buff over the first 16 bursts of the weapon, and the result is roughly 78,000. Once again, is really good. And total ammo of this weapon is 20 without reserves, and goes up to 24 with reserves, which means the total damage output of this weapon is 2.5 million, which is just incredibly high for a special weapon. So comparing it to a Vorpal 140 RPM sniper, among the highest DPS for special weapons, we got the 1 mag and the 2 mag, just over 7 seconds, which means the DPS is 77,000 for the 1 mag and drops off a lot to 56,000 for the 2 mag. So the Euphony is just way better for both numbers and a lot better for total damage and sustained DPS. The total damage of the sniper is just over 1 million, while the Euphony was 2.8 million about. So yeah, this scene at max stacks is just outputting a lot of damage. And comparing it to a heavy burst linear fusion rifle, the Storm Chaser, the damage of this scene with Fireline, which I don't have footage of because my teammates went to bed once again, is 23,920 per bullet, and I added 20% in the math. The 1 mag was a lot lower than a special at 63,58, and 1.9 million total. So the numbers across the board of this special is greatly outdoing even the same type of linear fusion in the heavy slot. Like, this scene is really good, and just showing off a build I'm kind of using with this weapon to take advantage of it, mostly just all about the Threadlings on Warlock. But yeah, this scene just does a lot of damage with all the Threadlings and stacking it up the buff. I really like how it's kind of like the special version of an Outbreak, and unlike the Outbreak where it's kind of just like a final stand weapon, as you saw, this scene is not only competing with other specials and even other linears in the heavy slot, it's actually outdoing them. So yeah, this scene is just really good. If you get this weapon and you kind of read the perks and think, that kind of sounds not that great, yeah, it is great. This scene is just really good, and I think that might be it for the commentary. I haven't slept really at all. Re-rated for 28 hours, slept like 4 to 5, then finished the boss. Then just this week in general, I've been like playing until super late and waking up super early. So yeah, kind of fried right now. Hopefully the commentary made a little bit of sense. And yeah, like usual, thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.